When you really stop to think about what happened in this week's episode of The Day I Became a God, you can start the episode off saying it's actually pretty tame. It's a typical high school episode where you go to the Japanese festival, you do some games, you get some romantic tension, maybe scare some students. That's what it was, and you're like, okay, nothing bad about that. I'm a fan of those types of episodes. You don't want to see them every single episode, but once a season, because of the setting we're in, they make sense, they're fun, everything that, we've seen before, but because of the characters, it makes it feel fun enough that we don't feel like it's a repetitive drag. But then you get to around the midway point, and that's where it becomes The Day I Became a God. This episode really does things from scamming at the carnival, which there was no way you were winning that game console, to which Yoda has to literally drag Hina away so she doesn't get beaten and bruised for trying to expose a scam. You have Hina literally approaching males, one of which you can probably say was a lolicon, and then approaching more people who are just there with their dates, and literally is proclaiming herself to be so good that it would make even a virgin explode. And then you get abduction. While the abduction wasn't intentional, still, it's abduction nonetheless. And this episode, it really did twist the festival formula, I have to admit. For the amount of anime that I've seen, and I've seen quite a few, it's very rare for me to walk out of a Japanese festival style episode and say that actually felt original and different. But I can safely say The Day I Became a God did so. This episode had so many moments of just absurdity, but also just toning it down and letting it be, I think, the least supernatural that we've seen up until this point. Never really felt like what we were doing in this episode was trying to once again prove, is Hina a god or isn't she a god? Is the world actually going to end? For a brief 20 or so minutes, we just had an episode, for the most part, just be everyone we've met up until this point. And honestly, I kind of forgot how many characters we have met up until this point. When Hina's like, hey, the whole point of these festivals is we have a big group of people, so, the person that was trying to bang you, and that was definitely taboo with the giant age difference of one being still a child and the other being a full-grown adult, bring her along, bring the students, bring absolutely everyone. And by the time everyone kind of reunited, I was like, holy shit, there's actually been quite a few characters. But what you can definitely praise The Day I Became a God for is the fact that the amount of characters on screen, it never feels like they're just there necessarily to be a plot device or they're there to convolute the scene at hand. When we had the whole ramen episode, that character with, his sister's friend, I thought that was great. And I felt like she served a purpose and she felt like a person rather than just an anime character. So her reuniting makes total sense. You don't need to see all these characters every single episode because naturally, even if you're friends or they're friends of your sister or they're people you ran into when you broke a game's mechanics and you basically turn it into Uno, you're not going to see them every single episode, but it makes sense that at a festival where people are designed to reunite together, you would see them. So they actually make it feel quite realistic and believable for the interactions and connections that we've built up until this point. And for a show that is as absurd more often than not, it's nice to have something feel so grounded to reality where it counts, and that's the interconnecting relationships between all of these characters. And when we got into the festival, it was great to just see the bonding moments and just honestly the fruits of our labor pay off. Something that I praised last week was our boy's decision not to take advantage of an emotional girl and getting a girlfriend that way. He took the high ground, saying that's not how I should get her to love me because she's at her emotional weakest. I can manipulate this situation for my own benefit. We're seeing in this episode that come to, a great point for him. Now that they've built this connection that wasn't manipulated or toxic, they're actually getting these real date-like moments, and it was really sweet to see him actually get these moments to really feel like, holy shit, I made the right choice. Even though people make fun of me, Hina will make fun of me, I did the right thing, and in doing so, I'm actually building a relationship that I can be proud of. And then in return, that makes, obviously, Hina jealous, which you knew the jealousy angle was coming eventually. I feel like ever since she's been trying to be a matchmaker because of her age, she was going to get jealous at some point in time. I just didn't expect her to walk up to people and shake them down for being lolicons. I totally agree with this dude, your words are matching an adult and your presence, it's just confused me, and he runs the hell away. It was pure absurdity and it was ludicrous. I didn't expect it, but you can't deny it was one of the funniest moments the show has seen to date, and it's saying something because there's been quite a few hilarious moments. The abduction angle I really liked because it really does put into perspective she is a child. I firmly believe she's not a god. I feel like we're still building up to that angle, but at the end of the day, it was really nice to see her just kind of take a stroll into this because she's so unaware. which honestly, I've always had the mechanical angle as my safe bet that maybe she was a creation, something like that, and she was designed to be a fully realistic human, but still technological. She can eat, she can sleep, she can do these things, but she doesn't have to survive, and maybe the doomsday is either her own demise or it's going to be something from the facility she comes from. Even if she's not created, if she was like raised up in a facility, she wouldn't know of everything, even if she does have something in her brain that lets her predict things that's fairly accurate. She may not know about ice trucks and things like that, so it does still tie together. Once we do get the reveal, it's going to be very fun to say, okay, this is what she is, and it's going to explain every previous action probably to a T. It just felt like this episode, it just had a lot of fun with the most basic premise ever. And I would honestly argue for high school anime, the festival episodes are probably some of the least cliche, because it's just such a fun setting. You got all these lights, you got all the kimonos and things like that. It just makes it feel very fun. So even if you're in the most basic of stories, they always work. So there's no way The Day I Became a God was going to fall flat on its face and not make a festival episode work. The difference is they actually made it emotional, and they had funny moments, they had creative moments, and it's just nice to see things get called out like carnival games basically being full of shit. But the thing that really got me was Yota's friend, and just how the one last jump, the one last moment to really shine, seeing his friend's accident and how they used to do this thing, or they attempted at one time but never could again, where they threw him up to do this one last score at the basketball game, and for him, he wants his friend to continue to push forward. And it's very interesting how, even though it's cliche, you can say, oh, this one thing that happened back in the day, they can't do it anymore because of an accident. Now we're in a different situation. We're going to kind of like make up for those lost issues. I love how they did it with the truck, where they actually like went in front of the truck to say, hey, go away. And he's just like flashing his high beams and like, get the hell off the road, you dumb kids. So then Yoda jumps up and is just like scaring the living shit out of him. It's nice. I love the moment though, like shortly after, because you see him kind of like just holding his head, like talking to the cops, and like, I didn't know there was a girl in my truck. Please believe me, I'm not a kidnapper. Doesn't look good for him. I got some bad feelings for that guy, but just overall, this episode just felt like it had a lot of fun. It had a very slight edge of drama, but nothing to the point that you felt like it was going to be overly bad. Unless the episode ended with her in that truck, I wasn't expecting it to be like too worrisome, but still, it had its fun with its edge in terms of its drama. It had some comedy, it had some relationship progression, but then also kind of driving a wedge between these two characters, who one just looks at her as, you know, like a little sister, where she may be like getting those romantic butterflies at a very young age, which is still innocent romantic butterflies, but still there nonetheless. Overall though, this show continues to impress me. I like it. This may not be the most talked about episode of the season, but still it's something that I think is worth discussing. So let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. What did you think of the episode? What was your personal favorite moment? Honestly, as funny as that lolly joke was, I really liked the carnival kind of bullshit where she was trying to pull, like, say, the strings just don't match. I love little moments like that, but of course, whatever you're feeling, do let me know. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, show your support, and hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.